talking about the Mothman and the clown and electromagnetics, and he is a very smart guy. His father did what you did, Shane. He was a, he was professor, like with writing and stuff.
Hmm.
And he said that the genius is the Mothman. And I'm like, whoa, right? Like, because something's happening, good or bad, there is that thing. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
whether the bridge is being built or destroyed, the guitar is making a song or being smashed, that thing is there. And you choose to deify it as God or the devil.
Good or bad,
And
right?
yeah, and that was like,
Dang.
I go, you should just come on this
Dude, that's
because
amazing. Yeah, because I
that's
mean,
actually so good.
that's we walk away with different interpretations. Because the people, like I think the guy who wrote the book Mothman Prophecies was saying, I believe his synopsis or his conclusion was these premonitions were from the Mothman warning this
Mm,
community of a terrible event that was going to happen. But then other
right.
people would argue that the Mothman did it. And then, there's a science community who steps in and says, well, in fact, it was just a bolt that was a little loose in the bridge. And it just so
Yeah.
happened, to lose. I think it broke or something, and then the weight on the other bolt just collapsed the whole bridge.
Well,
But
so
whatever
yeah,
else.
so it's almost like, well, this is like a theory that like that like governing dynamics, like beautiful mind, like when you come up with like a theory at MIT, I was trying to think of one, and this is kind of like Mothman, is it Mothman or the Bolt, right?
Hmm.
Like I called it imposed destiny. So let's say if you fly on a Cessna 1,000 times, you have more chances of crashing, just
Hmm.
statistics.
Right.
And if you fly one time, your statistics of crashing are very low. But what if there's a person in the Cessna that flew 1,000 and there's a person in the Cessna that flew once? What
Whose destiny
what
takes
keeps
over?
exactly? And I think that's the Mothman.
Yeah. Wow. Imposed
Or maybe it's
destiny.
just the bolt. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I've yet to find the answer. And a lot of people go, "Oh, it's the plane." But then I
It's
go, "Well,
just
now you have to talk about who built the plane. What about their karma?"
it's
You
the
know?
chaos and structure of God and nature all happening at once, and it's just everything happening. I mean, it's hard
Yeah.
to. That's why you can't comprehend God. It
Yeah.
seems like it's. I think there's an F. Scott Fitzgerald story about if this didn't happen, then this would happen, and it leads up to a car crash. It's a short story. It might even be the Benjamin Button original
Yeah.
short
Yeah,
story.
yeah. I know what you're talking
But
about.
it's
Yeah.
like and again, it's almost like a domino effect. You take this way, you take this way, but it's a domino effect where it's infinite dominoes happening all around the
Right.
world, and all of those are different destinies. And that's why people, I believe in free will. I believe that God gave
Hmm.
us free will to walk this earth with free will. But there's those other people who believe in determinism and that they don't have any free will, and that they're locked in whatever reality they have, and there's nothing they can do to fix it.
Man, I mean, yeah, those are questions I could have opinions on, but not know. I mean,
Of course.
Biet Simkin, the breathwork woman, like I said, she had a daughter. I think she might have been 7 or 9 months. I mean, God forgive me if I forget the month, but either way,
Hmm.
her daughter died,
Mm.
and and she uh, basically went crazy, of
Right.
course.
Right.
Hopefully, used her hands to. And then she told me, she goes, one day I'll tell you about the box because she couldn't even afford it,
Mm.
you know.
Hmm.
But what happened is now she has two children and she's a New York Times bestseller.
Right.
And but what she said to me, she goes, "There's no accidents," and she said, "No, I have two living ones." And I was
Wow.
like, the way she put it, but I'm like crying as she's telling me this, like she was so positive about
Yeah.
it, which someone could take away. Why aren't you mourning this more? And it's like I think she did. She's it's more she's honoring it, and I
Yeah.
think that's like so brave and
Agreed.
wild and,
Yeah.
and huge. And that's kind of like that's when you find God,
Hmm.
is when she calls it a shock. Like when you were like, I can't handle what happened to me,
Yeah.
then that's like when God is there. and
Yeah.
he's like, go this way or this way.
Yep. Yeah.
I think
That's why I reject nihilism so much. Is because
it's terrible.
as much grief
Yeah.
and horrible and things happen in the world, you have to choose to go through life, hoping, you get what you get. And, I've seen people
Yeah.
go through miserable, horrible things, losing people, losing children, losing loved
Yeah.
ones, parents, obviously all these things that will unfortunately happen to all of us to some degree, until the very end.
Well, once you realize that it is absolutely inevitable, and you're not alone in it. I mean, you want to talk about like what makes people feel good as community.
Hmm.
It's like, well, everything bad that's going to happen to you is going to happen to every other living being.
Yeah.
So you're not alone. You're
Right.
never alone in even the darkest of things. And nihilism to me is like, you know, ordering Domino's and watching The Office. It's like that's death. That nihilism is death.
Yeah.
Like real
Yes, it
death
is.
is real living.
Yes.
You know,
Nihilism, I would say it's living death. You're pretty much a
Mm.
zombie. You have no hope, there's nothing, and you're letting the world
Yeah.
crush you, and you want to be crushed because you find no joy and meaning in anything. And you also don't want to just destroy yourself, you want to destroy everything around you because it's contagious, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it's so strange. If it's almost like if someone said, "You have 10 years of joy, and then it's all gonna go away,"
Hmm.
and then you go, "It's all gonna go away? Well, never mind. I don't want it.
Right.
I'll just be miserable for 10 years until it goes away." It's like, no,
Right.
take it.
You
You
gotta
know,
live with
that's
it.
it. And
Yep.
that's hard.
You got to champion whatever time you have on this planet, you know,
I
whether you know
agree
it or
with
not.
you.
We all know one thing, and it's not forever, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say, I don't know if we're wrapping up, that I definitely don't do that all the time or know how to sometimes.
Right.
And that's one of my biggest like battles, to just appreciate like the sticky-eyed morning and
Hmm.
standing up out of bed, and like, I mean, sometimes I hate it, and then
Yeah.
I have to go, wait, like, no, this is it. This is good, and
It is.
and and that can be tough.
I would say that I know that feeling, but I would say that as someone who makes music and pays attention and observes acutely, you are paying homage to every small, beautiful detail. But it's easy to forget those things because, again, as much as we probably don't live within that cubicle reality, it seeps in because life, it has this, modern materialistic life has its structure that we're kind of always battling against.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, but I think some of the problem is to be like, um, kind of like a field reporter, like a Hunter Thompson or like a documentarian. It's like you can watch the bear eat the salmon, but and write about it, but you don't get to enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
So, it's like I don't. Sometimes I don't practice what I preach.
Totally understand that. Yeah, because you become
Yeah.
the observer. You might be hyper
Hmm.
aware in the moment, but you are
Right.
also just beyond the situation at all times because you're thinking about how maybe I might be projecting, but how you can translate that into the art or the music or the paper or
Well,
whatever.
no, of course. I mean, it becomes kind of like, escapism, which is essentially almost nihilism. But I've talked to some actors, like he wouldn't mind me mentioning him, like Chris Bauer. He's from The Wire, and he's
Hmm.
become a great friend. And um, I recently just was like kind of in a movie as like kind of a featured extra, and he's going to put me in another movie, because
Awesome.
if he saw my music videos look like movies lately.
Yep.
And I said it was the happiest I ever was because I wasn't me.
Right.
And he said, he's like, yeah, that's what it is. And I was like, well, is that good though? Like,
That's what I was just gonna say. Is
yeah,
that
is that a
good?
good thing? But because you get to like, for 6 months. I mean, because you look at someone like Daniel Day-Lewis and you're like, oh, for like 3 years, he's like an oil miner.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
but like and then people say he's never had a character, and then you go like, man, maybe he's like really sad. He doesn't want to be him. And
Right.
that's like that's what it takes to get there. But then you go like, but just kind of hearing that a lot of actors that I know, Adam Goldberg,
Hmm.
they're like, I like to not be me. So that's essentially, it's almost like, what's the difference between pretending, if your name is Adam, pretending your name is Brandon,
Hmm.
and you're a car racer and you're not
Right.
Adam who lives in New York with his children. What's the difference between that and like a guy in a basement doing heroin?
Right.
They're very close, but one of
Uh,
them makes art,
right.
but it's
I would
still it's
say
a
it's sad to not want to be yourself. I understand the art aspect, and for me the line to draw would be when it starts affecting your family, I guess, or you're sacrificing the innocence of your kids or something, where you're like, all right,
yeah,
this has gone too far. The art, because a lot of people who make art think they have to suffer, which summons up a lot of demons, to various degrees. And I've some friends who they think they have to suffer to make
mhm.
anything. I think we all suffer to some degree, no matter what, because we're on this planet. But we find the joys in it and do with it what we can. But you shouldn't have to suffer to make things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've thought of this. Like, let's say you or I wanted to write about the heat of a stove. It's like we know we could write about it
Hmm.
perfectly. Do
Hmm.
you actually have to press your hand on it?
Oh yeah, good
You might,
question. Yeah,
you know.
it's a tough one because I'm the person who likes to write from the field.
Exactly. It's
So
like you might, yeah, I mean, well, I think the difference is it's almost like my father would tell me is like joy is through moderation. So it's like maybe go like, a quick little one, but don't
right.
keep
And
it
then
there
and then the
forever.
problem is, and this kind of ties back to a lot of what you're saying tonight, is how far do you go? Because some people be like, well, I just touched it a little bit. Next time I'll go back and do a little bit more. Some
Yeah.
people got to learn their lesson real quick and be like, all right, I won't do it again. There's other people
Yeah.
who will keep returning to it.
Yeah.
You
Well,
got to
yeah,
be
the
careful.
definition of insanity is, repeating the same mistake. I mean, I think it's like, yeah, you probably would touch it quicker than me. I'd probably keep it on there for like a week. But then you have like Sylvia Plath, she's like in the oven.
She's done. Yeah, she's fully committed to the oven.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
But dude, we're gonna wrap it up. Where
Cool.
can people find you? What's the best place to send people?
I would say probably my Instagram, Fences Music, and then in my bio there's a link to buy the book, to watch the two newest videos. Yeah, the Spotify links to buy records and everything like that. And oh, I wanted to say in closing as well is like, I've done Duncan Trussell, Mark Maron, and this was my most favorite.
Oh,
I feel
Oh,
very
dude.
emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually stimulated. And it
Oh
was,
man.
I wish I could have heard the people talking, but I feel like I kind of did, which is makes it even more spooky.
First of all, thank you. Second of all, you heard them through osmosis. I sent them to
Yeah,
you because I have psychic abilities now from Operation Stargate. And
you really do.
next time, I'd love to have you here. But you're an amazing second guest. I'm so glad we had you on, man.
it was
And
nice to meet you. You have
yeah,
a
I
great
hope
name too.
he does have a great name. I hope everyone checks out Christopher's music with
Thank you.
Fences, all the people he's collaborated with. He's legit one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite people. And yeah, man, thank you and have a great night.
Take care.